Come on. Watch out. Hi, I'm Grant Nelson. This is my dog Bailey here to my right, and welcome to Mustache Off Grid. Oh, wow! Hi guys, Grant Nelson again here with the Mustache Off Grid YouTube channel. In case you're new to the channel, I live off grid in southern Missouri in a one-room cabin. I don't use any public utility hookups, and I live completely off grid, and I'm working towards complete self-sufficiency out here in the woods. Live out in the Ozarks. So anyway, I'll get into the show today. I figured I'd talk a little bit about a few different things. So we just got done with Thanksgiving. My family actually came down the day after Thanksgiving and visited for the weekend, and we went out by Springfield, Missouri, and there's a bunch of caves out in this area in the Ozark Mountain Range, some in Arkansas, some in Missouri, and we try to go visit a new cave every time they come down. So it's kind of an interesting thing. And one of the caves we went to was Smallin Civil War Cave, and one thing that was interesting about it is it's got great history to it, but the people used to use the cave to keep their food cold in the summertime, especially down here in the south. We don't get very cold winters down here. This is pretty close to as cold as we get for the most part. This is about average temps for the wintertime, 45 like this, which is nice. Once in a while we'll get a little colder. We average about 5 inches of snow down here. But anyway, in the summertime it can be a little bit hot. It's not quite as hot as the deep south, but we get pretty hot summers. And in the olden days, people couldn't just keep meat out, and other perishable items that they cooked. And they would use creeks and lakes and things like that to keep their meat cold. And I actually use a similar concept out here on my homestead. If I get some meat from the store, or I butcher something and I'm not going to cook it right away, a lot of times I will keep it in a bucket of water. I'll take a Ziploc bag, seal it, and sink it in a bucket of water. And you put that in the shade, and it'll usually last, I would say probably you could do 4 days. In these temperatures, you could probably do it for a long time, because we've got nice cold temps. We even had a little ice on some of the water troughs this morning. So you could do it a long time with these temperatures. But in the summertime, I would say you could probably do 3 or 4 days if it's, an average summer day. That would be cutting it max a little bit, and you're gonna want to cook it well done just in case. But you can keep stuff without refrigeration that way for quite a while in the heat. Quite a while being a couple days. And it was interesting, the history of that cave, how they even had in one of the caves, they had the old wooden slats, because someone used to have a spring box there. I don't have a spring on my property, but people used to use spring houses a lot. Was a big thing. If you have a spring-fed stream or a trickle on your property, you could create a spring house to keep your meat cool. They actually used to do a lot of dairy in those spring houses as well. If it looks a little smoky, guys, I have the smokehouse going right there. You could probably see all the smoke coming out of it. Anyway, I'm all over the place right now, but I finally got a deer, and I'm smoking mostly the whole deer in there. I canned a little bit in the hot lard, but most of it I'm cold smoking in there. Anyway, the water though, especially spring-fed water that comes from the ground that's nice and cool, is a great option for refrigeration if you're trying to live primitively off-grid. I came up with an idea though to bury, well, I'll put a little clip of it, bury one of these feed tubs and bury a metal pot. And then if I take like one of these feed tubs like this, I think that if I bury the feed tub in the ground where I can lift it up and take it out and I can put water in it, I think if I put the metal pot in the middle of the feed tub with the water in that, I could form a sort of refrigeration system in the ground. And those pots have a lid to keep on top. I figured it would help with keeping things cool. You could see my little pig out there. He's running around. Cornelius is his name. And create kind of what they called a Zier pot. They used to use these back in, you know, really old times. Like, I'm talking BC, you know, early AD times. They used to use these things called Zier pots, made of like clay pots. They would put, you know, water in one of the clay pots, and then they would put another pot inside of that, and wet sand, I think they would use, things like that, to try to create a refrigeration unit. Very interesting to read about. I think it's Z-E-E-R. So if you guys are interested in that, something to look into if you live off grid. The concept, I don't think it'll work in all regions, but something to think about is using water, cold water, for refrigeration. If you have a pond on your property, you have a stream nearby, you could maybe build like a spring box. Maybe you could put an old cooler or refrigeration unit in that spring or something like that, in a way that you could, it'd stay somewhat cool in there, something insulated. And I'm planning on doing something similar in the ground, but with stagnant water, and it's going to be one that I can change out the water every couple days to keep it a little bit cleaner. So that's just something, an idea that I had, and we'll see if it works. I'll keep you guys updated when I do it. I'm not sure if I'll do it this week or when I'll get to it, but it is on my list. I've got all kinds of projects I'm working on. Getting into that, you know, I figured I'd give you guys a little bit of an update on what I'm working on this week, and, you know, kind of some of the stuff I've got going on out here on the homestead. Finally got the pig pen done, got the pig. I castrated the pig. I've got him kind of set up out there, which was kind of my last project I was working on, was building that fence. Working on the pig hut. I'll probably have a series on that coming out. But anyway, got that done. So on my agenda this week, and I probably won't get to all this week, but I wanted to talk about I'm probably going to cut some hickory to sell. Fix the parking brake on my truck is on the list. Fix the chainsaw. Buy feed. Mostly this week I'm just going to clean, because I finally feel a little bit of cleaning is big. I'm going to try to deep clean the place, pick up all the trash in my yard, make sure all my tools are organized and things like that. I finally feel like a sense of relief that I finally got the pig pen done, because that was a big project and I wanted it to be just perfect for when I got the pigs. So, and then I also have on the list smoke the deer, edit the YouTube videos, and I'm sure I've got some other projects that I'm not even thinking of that are on that list. I just got back earlier from going to register my car, and you know, you hear a lot of complaints about the DMV. It was unbelievable though. They got it done, and I think it was 2 or 3 minutes I was in the place. I don't even think it was 5 minutes, which was impressive. I walked in the door, they said, "Hey, you can come right here." I said, "Okay." I went there. I said, "Yeah, I just want to renew my registration." And they said, "All right." I said, "This is this, this is that, this is that, this is that." And I gave it to them. They plugged it all in. And I mean, I don't even think it was 5 minutes, which I think it was the fastest I ever been out of a DMV. Kind of a ramble there, guys. But, you know, you've always got just things like that that are just an annoyance, that are on your list. Just little things that you got to check off. But anyway, being this is a pre-Thanksgiving episode, I kind of thought it'd be interesting to talk about the first Thanksgiving a little bit. You know, the Pilgrims, the Native Americans, and you know, the way of life that they were living back then was a lot kind of the way of life that I try to live now. And It wasn't easy for them. In fact, I think the first year about half of them died, the pilgrims that came over. Um, but one thing I thought was interesting, and I've always kind of known this trick here, if you're a gardener, um, when they did finally get things a little bit settled and started working with the Native Americans, um, burying fish to grow the crops because it puts nitrogen in the soil was one thing that the Native Americans apparently taught them. I've used the same concept in my garden where the okra's at. When I go fishing in the summertime, I'll keep the carcasses from any that I eat, and I'll bury them in my garden, and it's a great fertilizer. But just something I figured I'd mention. Some people might not know that burying fish, like fish carcasses or whole fish or whatever, is a really good nitrogen fixer in the soil. Um, and that knowledge kind of stems back all the way from the first Thanksgiving, which is kind of interesting. Um, Also talking about the water and this kind of Zeer pot thing, I figured it'd be interesting to talk about geothermal temperatures in the ground. I talked about a little bit if you're building a structure, like a bushcraft structure in the wild, and you kind of want to dig into the ground a little bit and make kind of a foxhole to insulate yourself a little bit better. And that being said, geothermal temperatures are different everywhere you go. Up north, you could probably dig 5 feet in the ground in certain areas, and you could store your canned goods in that ground, and your canned goods are still going to freeze and crack in that ground, depending on what region you're at. It won't be as cold as it is outside, but it'll be warmer, but it might not work quite as well up north. But if you're in the middle of the country or the south of the country, using the ground temperatures for root cellar barrels and storage, I think I've talked a little bit about my root cellar barrels in quite a few episodes that I bury kind of in a hill out here, so they don't freeze in the wintertime. My fresh produce and things that I put in there. It works in a lot of regions. So if you're going off grid, it's something to think about. And one thing that I've really thought about with the log cabin I'm going to build, I have kind of a plan in my mind to put pylons. I guess they won't be pylons, but walls that I'm going to stack the logs on that are maybe about 2 foot tall. And I'm going to dig down in the ground a little bit to kind of make a rat wall to keep out the rats and mice and things like that. So I'll maybe put it a foot in the ground and a foot above ground. And it'll also prevent water from running in the cabin, I think. But I'm also probably going to mound the dirt up on that, like up to that wall, to add a little bit of extra geothermal cooling and heating. And that was one thing I noticed with the caves we were visiting. Every cave we went in is about 58 to 59 degrees all year. In the summertime it's 58 or 59 degrees. In the wintertime it's 58 or 59 degrees. And obviously if you're built halfway into the ground, it's not going to be 58 or 59. It's going to be a little bit warmer than that because of the air temperatures. In the winter it might be a little bit cooler than that because of the air temperatures. So you still might want to burn a log or things like that. But I think out here it would actually stay above freezing if you build a cabin that way. Maybe half in the ground, or a third in the ground, or a quarter into the ground, and then the rest is above ground. You can get some of that ground temperature heating and cooling in your building. And out here in the south where it's hot, I usually in the summertime when it's hot, I live with no air conditioning out here. I don't have my shed cabin that I ordered a few years ago and insulated and put in a wood stove, and I don't have that built into the ground. It's above ground. It's well ventilated, But I usually go in the woods in the shade and drink water on the hot days and kind of relax and try not to overdo myself if it's 100 degrees. I just live with it. But I think that if I build my log cabin a little bit in the ground, that it's going to be a lot cooler in the summertime in there. It's also going to be in the woods where I'm building it. So that's part of my design process, is using that geothermal temperatures from the ground. And I really think that if you're building a cabin off grid in a moderate temperature zone, somewhere in the middle of the country, or in the south, it's a great concept to utilize for your heating and cooling. It's going to keep it warmer in the winter, cooler in the summer, and make it a little more bearable for people. And those caves, people used to go there to cool off in the summertime, and in the wintertime they used to go there to stay warm because of that temperature change. Like I said, they stay 60 degrees year round, the caves down here, for the most part. I know a lot of them, they find like Native American drawings in. The cave that I was in, they found a lot of Civil War initials carved into the rock in there, which is part of the reason that it's on the National Historic Registry, they said. But it's just an interesting concept. Definitely something to consider if you're building off-grid, and you don't want to have to use air conditioning or solar power hooked up to air conditioning somehow, because that's going to be expensive. And the dirt on your property comes with the property. It's free. It's out there already. It's there for your use. You can also utilize rocks and limestone and things like that to kind of make that mound that you're building into, or you could go all in ground, or you could just go into a hillside. There's a ton of different ways to utilize it. I've seen a lot of different concepts of it online, but just something I figure would be worth talking about, worth mentioning to someone going off grid and wanting to live primitively with less electricity. I find the less electricity I use, the more peaceful I feel out here. And I like doing things primitively, and those geothermal temperatures for heating and cooling, that's a nice primitive way of heating and cooling your house and refrigerating stuff and things like that. So that was something I mentioned. See if I got anything else written down here. I figured it would be worth talking about gravity fed water a little bit. So I use 275 gallon totes for my water. I fill them up and whatnot, and I'm sure a lot of other off-grid people use similar concept. As far as gravity fed water goes, a gallon of water, I'm not sure exactly how much it weighs, but I know it's like 5 pounds plus, I believe. One of those 275 gallon tanks, I believe it weighs like possibly like a whole ton or something like that, over a ton, to a point that I couldn't even transport it in my truck if I was hauling water if it was full. At least it would be over the load bearing weight. I'm not saying I couldn't transport it, but it might damage the vehicle. So that's something to know if you're planning on hauling water, and you're using those 275 gallon totes. If you fill them all the way up and you have a 1500 truck, which means basically that it's used for 1500 pounds. If it's an F-150 or a 1500 Chevy 1500, that means that the max weight in the back of it is generally about 1500 pounds, maybe a little more, but anything above it, you're overdoing the axle weights, so there's a chance you bend and break stuff. But one of those totes full of water is above that. Now you'll see my property is a little bit on the slope. There's a little bit of a slope to it. I could probably run water down the hill very easily to get it downhill because of the gravity. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If you're buying a property on a slope and you're building a cabin and you want water into that cabin, maybe consider building it somewhat down the slope from the well, so that way you can run the Bailey's coming up here. I don't know what he's doing. Come up here, boy. I think the people want to see you. Come up here. Come up here. Can you get up here? I don't know if he can get up here. Oh, that's all right. That's all right, boy. I don't know what he's doing. But anyway, you might want to consider building your cabin somewhat down the slope to run the water to it. Also, if you aren't down the slope, if you build a tank and you elevate it up in the air, you're going to have that gravity pushing down on the water to push the water through your pipes as well. So that's basically all gravity fed is using the gravity to pull the water down and push it through the pipes. And now keep in mind, one of those 275 gallon tanks, like I said, it's over a ton in there. That means that you're probably going to have at least 1,000 pounds of water pressure pushing down if you have a pipe running from that. Now the farther you go, the more that's going to slow down. But if you have that tank full, it's going to be about 1,000 pounds of pressure. The less you have in the tank, the less pressure, because the less weight's going to be pushing down and pulling down and pushing the water through the pipe. But just something to keep in mind, guys. Gravity fed water, you're just using gravity to push the water. And you can get quite a bit of pressure that way. That used to be all they used to use. If you're moving water uphill, the elevation thing where I talked about elevating the tank might be able to help if you can raise the tank real high in the air. Another thing, they make really kind of small and light water pumps that you could probably pump stuff up the hill. Some of them only have like a gallon or two of, or a few pounds of pressure for pushing the water uphill. So it depends how far, what kind of a surface you're on, and things like that, on whether they'll work. But a water pump, they make some for like $100 to $200, may also be an option. You can use them to pump ponds and things like that. They make trash ones, which means it's for a pond, and non-trash ones to use. I don't have a ton of experience with them, but I have thought about getting one to irrigate my garden. I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to use gravity fed to irrigate it in the future. It's a project that I'm probably going to work on in the springtime sometime, maybe February or March. Like I said, I've always got new projects I'm working on, things like that. And you know, just a little bit of a ramble there on gravity fed water. Just the concept of it, basically. Very simple concept. And I figured it might help someone that's looking for water solutions off grid. Same with the geothermal thing. If you're building a cabin or things, I figured that might help someone. So that's the only reason I made this video for, well, I mean, I make the video for entertainment and education weekly, but the point is that I just thought that those were some topics I could cover a little bit, talk a little bit about, and maybe add in some other things as well. So anyway, if you guys are ever in the Ozarks, some of the caves out here are beautiful in Arkansas and Missouri, and I recommend visiting them. I think that I don't really have much else to talk about today, but I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and God bless. Come on, Bailey. What's up, buddy? Sit, 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 sit. Nice catch, nice catch. Sit. Well, we'll let you chew that up first. Sit, sit. Oh, wow, that was a good catch. That was like Jerry Rice. Good catch, boy. Good catch. Alright guys, if you enjoy the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and see you next week. Look at him eat, guys. Look at him eat. He's getting big. He's getting big. Easy, boy. Easy, boy. Yeah, look at him. Cornelius loves his corn. He certainly does love his corn. Bailey don't like him quite as much.